Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is silence. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is to do nothing at all. 7 days. Just 7 days of distance can reveal more about a person than 7 months of talking. So I dare you, ignore him for 7 days and then watch what happens. There's a reason silence is called powerful. Words are everywhere. People talk all day. Fill your ears with promises, excuses, sweet lines, and apologies. But silence has weight. Silence creates space. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to deal with themselves without the distraction of your voice. When you go silent for 7 days, when you stop calling, stop texting, stop explaining, you're giving him the loudest message you could ever send. And here's the truth. Silence says more than any argument ever could. It's not weakness. It's not surrender. It's discipline, and discipline always reveals the truth. Think about it. When you pull back your words, you remove the shield he hides behind. As long as you're there, responding, asking questions, giving energy, he doesn't have to face himself. But the second you go quiet, the second you step away, he is left with his own thoughts. And those thoughts, they're heavy. That's when reality starts to set in. Why isn't she answering? Why hasn't she checked in? Did I lose her? That silence crawls into his mind and does the work your words never could. Because when a person is forced to notice your absence, they start to measure your value. Silence is also the ultimate mirror. If his interest was only shallow, if his presence was only convenience, your silence will expose it. Because without your responses, without your attention, he has nothing to lean on. The ones who are real will chase clarity, will reach out, will show they notice you're gone. But the ones who never valued you in the first place, they'll vanish. They'll match your silence with silence. And as painful as that truth may be, it's the kind of clarity that saves you years of wasted time. Silence doesn't lie. Words can deceive, but silence always tells the truth. And don't mistake silence for passivity. Silence is not about letting him walk all over you. No. Silence is strategy. Every second you keep quiet, you're holding the line of your self-respect. You're saying without saying, I will not chase you. I will not beg you. I will not lower myself to make you see my worth. That's strength, and strength doesn't always need volume. Sometimes strength is simply refusing to give what they expect. Your attention, your reaction, your presence. Silence breaks patterns, and when you break the pattern, everything shifts. In those 7 days, silence is your shield, but it's also your test. Pay attention not to what you feel, but to what he does. Does he reach out? Does he notice your absence? Or does he fade away as though you were never there? That's the answer you've been avoiding. That's the clarity you've been waiting for. And sometimes it's the silence that finally forces you to face what you already knew deep down. That someone who doesn't notice your silence never deserved your voice in the first place. The most important part. Silence isn't just about him. It's about you. Because in those 7 days, you're not just testing him. You're rebuilding you. Every moment you stay quiet, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses, stronger than your need for reassurance, stronger than your craving for attention. You learn to sit in your own company, and that lesson, that's priceless. Silence is where you find yourself again. And the moment you do, the moment you realize you don't need to fill the air with words just to feel valuable, that's when you become unshakable. Silence isn't empty. Silence is full of answers. And if you're brave enough to hold it for 7 days, you'll hear them loud and clear. Your attention is not cheap. Your presence is not ordinary. Your time, your energy, your words, they are all a form of currency, and the problem is, most people spend them carelessly. They give and give until they're drained, and the other person never realizes the value of what they're receiving. That's why withdrawal is so powerful. The moment you pull it all back, the calls, the texts, the constant checking, you shock the system. You interrupt the flow of energy that the other person had gotten comfortable with. And in those 7 days of withdrawal, you'll learn something about both him and yourself, who truly appreciates your presence, and how strong you really are without giving it all away. See, people rarely appreciate what's always available. If you're always answering, always showing up, always making the effort, he'll start to see it as normal, as expected. That's human nature. We begin to devalue what we don't fear losing. But when you step back, when you disappear for 7 days, that normal is ripped away. Suddenly, the energy he counted on is gone. The attention he soaked up has vanished. And that gap, that absence, it forces him to realize what you were giving. Withdrawal creates a vacuum, and human nature hates a vacuum. Either he rushes to fill it with effort, or he leaves it empty and exposes himself as someone who never deserved it in the first place. But withdrawal isn't about games. It's about balance. You're not doing it to manipulate or trick him into chasing you. You're doing it because you recognize that you've been overgiving, and it's time to reclaim your power. Every time you stop yourself from reaching out, you're reminding yourself, I am not the one who has to beg for attention. Every hour you hold back, you're proving to yourself, I am not desperate. I am in control. And every day you withdraw, you're showing yourself, I am my own priority. That shift is massive. Because once you feel the power of withdrawal, once you recognize that silence and distance can be stronger than chasing, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Withdrawal also exposes true intentions. In those 7 days, the person on the other side will either step up or fade out. If he values you, he will feel the absence and move toward you. He will notice, he will check in, he will make the effort to bridge the gap. If he doesn't, he will drift, and as painful as that can be, it's also the gift. Because when you stop pouring in and he doesn't come forward on his own, you have your answer, and the answer is clear. He was never giving as much as you were. Withdrawal, in this sense, isn't punishment. It's revelation. It shows you who's real and who's not, and it does it without you having to say a single word. But here's the most powerful part. In withdrawing from him, you reconnect with yourself. Suddenly, you have space, the energy you used to pour into him. You pour into you. You start noticing the peace that comes from not waiting on a reply. You start feeling the freedom of not being tied to someone else's inconsistency. You reclaim hours of your day, energy in your mind, space in your heart, and in that silence, you begin to see your own worth again, not because he confirms it, but because you've stopped depending on him to. Withdrawal teaches you that your happiness is not in his hands, it's in yours. And so, the power of withdrawal isn't just about what happens to him, it's about what happens to you. Because in those 7 days, you transform. You move from needing his attention to realizing you never needed it at all. You move from giving everything away to holding your power in your own hands. You move from being dependent on his validation to standing firm in your own. That's the real victory of withdrawal. It's not whether he comes back, it's that you come back. You come back stronger, wiser, and more aware of your own value. And once you feel that power, once you've lived 7 days on your own terms, you'll never settle for being drained again. One of the greatest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking they need to force answers out of someone. They demand explanations, they beg for clarity, they argue and debate, hoping the truth will appear through words. But the truth rarely comes that way. People lie, they deflect, They dodge. They say what sounds good in the moment just to keep you quiet. That's why silence is a far more powerful test than confrontation. When you ignore him for 7 days, you remove the platform for excuses. You take away the chance for him to talk, to explain away, to distract you. Instead, you let his actions, or his lack of them, speak. And actions never lie. Testing intentions doesn't require raising your voice, writing long paragraphs, or asking questions he doesn't want to answer. It requires one thing: distance. That's it. Because distance creates space, and in that space, you see the truth. If he cares, if his intentions are genuine, he will not sit comfortably in your silence. He will feel the gap and make the effort to close it. He will call, he will reach out, he will ask what's going on. But if his intentions are shallow, if he was only around because you were convenient, then silence will not move him. He will let it be. He will drift. And as painful as that realization might be, it's better than living under the illusion of care. Confrontation often muddies the waters. When you confront, emotions flare, voices rise, defenses go up. He'll say anything to protect himself, to calm you down, to avoid losing his comfort. But withdrawal, ignoring him for 7 days, that's confrontation without a word. It strips away the performance. It removes the act. He doesn't get the chance to spin a story, because your silence leaves him only one choice: to act or not to act. And that choice tells you everything. You don't have to chase the truth. The truth comes to you. And here's the beauty of this test. It doesn't cost you anything but discipline. No long arguments, no wasted energy, no tears spent on trying to make him see your worth. You simply step back, stay silent, and watch. The effort shifts from you to him. For once, it's not you trying to prove, not you trying to explain, not you trying to convince. It's him standing in the silence, forced to reveal whether he truly values you or not. And if he doesn't step forward, if he doesn't notice your absence, then you know where you stand. No begging required, no fights necessary. Silence gave you the answer clean and clear. Testing intentions without confrontation also strengthens your self-control. Because for those 7 days, every instinct in you might scream to break the silence, to reach out, to ask, do you even care? But when you hold the line, when you resist, you begin to notice something. You don't need his words to find your peace. You don't need his explanations to feel secure. You realize that his actions, or his inactions, are enough, and that realization is freedom. It takes you out of the exhausting cycle of needing reassurance, of pulling answers out of someone who doesn't want to give them, of trying to decode words that were never honest in the first place. And finally, testing intentions this way flips the power dynamic. Because usually you're the one chasing, questioning, pushing for answers. But when you go silent for 7 days, you put the ball in his court. You give him the chance to show you what's real. And if he fails, you didn't lose, you gained clarity. If he succeeds, then his actions spoke louder than words ever could. Either way, you walk away stronger because you got the truth without sacrificing your dignity. No shouting, no pleading, just silence. And silence, when used with discipline, reveals everything. Respect is not something you beg for. Respect is not something you chase. Respect is something you demand through your actions, your choices, and the boundaries you set. And ignoring him for 7 days is not about playing games. It's about reminding yourself that self-respect is non-negotiable. Every time you hold back from sending that message, every time you stop yourself from explaining, every time you choose silence over desperation, you are declaring, my self-respect comes first. Because once you start compromising your dignity just to hold on to someone, you've already lost. See, The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others treat you. If you lower the bar, if you accept the bare minimum, if you chase when you should be chased, then don't be surprised when others meet you with the same energy. But when you draw the line, when you say, "I will not break myself to keep you," everything changes. Silence, in this sense, is a boundary. It's you saying, "I won't keep proving my worth. I won't keep begging for your attention. I won't keep trying to convince you to see what's already in front of you." That's not pride. That's not ego. That's respect. The truth is, people will treat you the way you allow them to. If he knows you'll always answer, no matter how he acts, then he'll never change. If he knows you'll keep forgiving, keep giving chances, keep chasing, then he'll never step up. Why would he? You've made it easy. But the moment you withdraw, the moment you cut off the easy access, the moment you go silent for 7 days, he is forced to confront the reality. Your presence is not guaranteed. That's self-respect in action, and once you show that kind of strength, people either rise to meet it or they fall away. And here's what's even more powerful: self-respect doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. Because when you put yourself first, you stop tolerating what drains you. You stop giving space to people who don't deserve it. You stop wasting energy on those who don't value it. In those 7 days, as you choose yourself over reaching out to him, you start building a stronger version of you. A version that knows, "I don't need to chase. I don't need to beg. If you can't see my worth, that's your loss." And that mindset, that's unshakable. But let's be clear, self-respect is not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than him. It's not about punishing him. It's about protecting your peace. It's about standing firm in the truth that your value does not decrease just because someone else fails to recognize it. It's about holding yourself to a standard where you say, "I deserve effort. I deserve consistency. I deserve honesty, and if you can't give me that, I won't lower myself to meet you where you are." Silence, then, becomes a shield. It protects you from falling into patterns of begging and chasing. It keeps your dignity intact, and when you finally taste the strength that comes from putting self-respect above everything else, you'll never go back. Because you'll realize something: losing someone who couldn't respect you is never a loss. It's a win. Those 7 days will prove it to you. If he comes back because he felt your absence and recognized your value. If he doesn't, then he was never going to respect you anyway. Either way, you stood firm. Either way, you refused to bend your standards. Either way, you walked with dignity. And that, more than anything else, is the mark of true self-respect. Here's the part most people overlook. When you ignore him for 7 days, it's not just about what he feels. It's about what you discover. The silence, the distance, the absence. It doesn't only test him, it transforms you. Because in those 7 days, something shifts inside. You start realizing that your strength doesn't come from his validation. It doesn't come from whether or not he calls, whether or not he texts, whether or not he notices. Your strength comes from within. And when you pull back, when you stop feeding the habit of constant attention, you finally see what you're made of. That shift is everything. At first, those 7 days feel heavy. You'll want to reach out. You'll want to break the silence. You'll feel the itch to text, the urge to check his page, the need to know what he's doing. That's natural because you've built a routine around giving him your energy. But as each day passes, something begins to change. You wake up and realize you didn't check your phone first thing in the morning. You go about your day and notice you're thinking more about your own goals, your own peace, your own joy. Slowly, the craving weakens, And in that process, you discover you don't need him to breathe. You don't need him to feel whole. You only thought you did because you gave him so much of your energy. This shift is emotional, but it's also mental. When you stop giving him your focus, you free up space in your mind. And in that space, you begin to think more clearly. You stop obsessing over his behavior, stop analyzing his every word, stop waiting on his next move. Instead, your thoughts turn back to you, your plans, your dreams, your peace. That's when you start noticing things you missed before. How tired you were from giving so much, how anxious you became waiting on him, how much energy you drained trying to keep him close. Withdrawal doesn't just test him, it wakes you up to yourself. And then comes the emotional freedom. The longer you sit in silence, the stronger you get. What used to make you anxious now makes you proud. Instead of saying, "I wonder if he misses me," you start saying, "I'm proud I didn't break my silence today." That shift from dependency to discipline is life-changing, because suddenly you're no longer a prisoner to his attention. You're no longer waiting for his call to feel wanted. You're no longer measuring your value by his actions. You're free, and freedom, once you taste it, is something you'll never want to lose again. But here's the deeper truth. When you shift emotionally, he feels it too. Because people can sense when your energy changes. They can sense when you stop needing them, when you stop chasing, when you stop orbiting around their world. And ironically, that's often when they start chasing you. Not because of the silence alone, but because of the strength you built inside it. He'll feel the difference between the old you, the one who gave too much, and the new you, the one who knows her worth, and that difference can't be faked. That difference is earned through silence, discipline, and self-control. The most important thing to understand is this. The real victory of those 7 days is not whether he comes back, but whether you come back to yourself. Because the shift is about you reclaiming your identity, your peace, your strength. It's about realizing that you were always enough, even when you convinced yourself you weren't. It's about finding power in the quiet, dignity in the distance, freedom in the withdrawal. That emotional shift will outlast him, outlast the silence, outlast everything. Because once you find yourself again, no one can take that away. And that is the true gift of ignoring him for 7 days. At the end of those 7 days, the silence will have done its work. This is the moment where everything becomes clear. Because silence doesn't hide truth. It exposes it. The outcome you see after ignoring him for a week is not random. It's not coincidence. It's the truth showing itself without disguise. Either he reaches out or he doesn't. Either he notices your absence or he ignores it. Either he values your presence or he proves he never did. And that clarity, that's priceless. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know, you can't unknow. Silence gives you the answers that words could never deliver. If he comes forward, if he checks in, if he breaks through the silence to find out where you are, then you know something. Your presence mattered. You mattered. Your absence shook him. It revealed that what you brought to the table was never small. It was never invisible. It was never meaningless. And while that doesn't automatically solve everything, it does confirm that you were never wasting your time. It shows you that your silence had impact. It shows you that you held weight in his life, and that confirmation gives you leverage, because now you know, without asking, that you were never just anyone. You were someone. But if he doesn't reach out, if the silence is met with more silence, that's a truth you cannot afford to ignore. As painful as it feels, it's better to see it now than years down the road. If 7 days without you doesn't make a difference to him, Imagine what 7 months or 7 years would look like. That silence is a warning. It tells you, this is not someone who is invested. This is not someone who values your presence enough to fight for it. And as much as it hurts, it's also freedom, because now you don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to keep hoping. You don't have to keep trying to fix something that was never real in the first place. His silence gave you your answer. The outcome, whether good or bad, always serves you. That's the power of this test. If he shows up, you win, because you know your absence had value. If he doesn't, you still win, because you've uncovered the truth early enough to protect your heart. Either way, silence saves you time, saves you energy, saves you from illusions. You no longer have to live in confusion, no longer have to keep asking questions that never get answered. The outcome, his reaction or his lack of it, speaks louder than anything he could ever say. And once you have that truth, you are free to decide how to move forward without doubt. But the real beauty of this process is not just what you learn about him, but what you learn about yourself. You learn that you are strong enough to hold silence. You learn that you are brave enough to face the truth, no matter how it looks. You learn that you can survive without constant reassurance, without constant attention, and in that lesson, you gain something priceless, resilience. Because once you've gone through 7 days of silence and seen the truth it reveals, you will never again settle for someone who cannot match your value. You'll carry that clarity with you into every relationship, every connection, every interaction. So the outcome is never about winning him back or pushing him away. It's about exposing reality. 7 days of silence is a filter. It filters out the ones who don't care. It highlights the ones who do. It forces the truth to come out without you lifting a finger. And when that truth appears, you no longer have to wonder, no longer have to chase, no longer have to beg. The outcome is your answer. The outcome is your freedom. The outcome is the moment you realize silence is not empty. It's the loudest truth you'll ever hear. So after those 7 days, one truth will be clear. Silence is not weakness. It's strength. Withdrawal is not avoidance. It's wisdom. Distance is not about games. It's about dignity. By ignoring him for a week, you didn't just test him. You discovered you. You saw where he stood, but more importantly, you saw how powerful you are when you stand on your own. Because whether he comes back or fades away, you win. If he reaches out, you know your presence carried weight. If he doesn't, you know you saved yourself from giving more to someone who never deserved it. Either way, you walk away stronger, clearer, freer. That's the gift silence gives you. So remember this, you don't have to fight to be valued. You don't have to beg to be seen. You don't have to chase to be chosen. All you have to do is honor yourself enough to step back and let silence speak. And when it does, it will tell you everything you need to know. 7 days, just 7 days, ignore him, and watch what happens.